when you smile at somebody, if you notice what happens, they almost always smile back. I guess it can be almost as simple as that. And
Yeah.
so I just think seeing life change for people is definitely part of what makes me tick and why I do what I do and why I give everything I have to it.
You're now listening to the Let's Talk About Life podcast, brought to you by Don't Settle, with your host, Harrison King. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Let's Talk About Life podcast. I'm Harrison King, and I'm super excited to be here today with someone I really look up to. He's a pastor, he's a father, he's an educator, he is an incredible human being, somebody I like to call a master of positivity. Jamie Holtom, how are you doing?
I am doing great and really glad to be with you today. Love what you're doing with this, Harrison.
Thanks so much, Jamie. I'm happy to have you. Before we, start, the people don't really know much about you, so why don't you give me a quick little summary about you, about your life, what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, life is good. Feel very, very blessed. So we have 3 kids with us. Leah, who's 20, Cameron, who's 17, and Caleb, who's 14. I'm married to Katrina. She's a high school math teacher. I've been a pastor, a minister here in Brampton at North Bramley United Church for a little over 20 years. And it has been and continues to be a great ride. Like we love our life. We're very involved in the community. It's been a great place to raise our family, both within the church and this city. And I'm a sports guy, so I love to work out and play sports, and that's part of what we do around here. And loving it. Yeah.
You're loving it. And you see, everybody, if you're watching, if you're listening, he's a happy dude. Jamie's a happy dude. And that's why I wanted to have you on. I mean, you are someone I look up to, and I just, incredible person. But I want to kind of talk about positivity today because, like I said, you're one of the most positive people I've ever met. And I want to just get a little insight on that and what it's like. Why do you choose to be so positive? I mean, I know, I'm sure it's, obvious, but I'm sure it's a choice. So I guess speak a little bit to that. What's up with that?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely a choice, and I think I'm wired that way. So I think I've always been a pretty positive guy. My family will say regularly, I consistently say things like, "Oh, don't worry, it'll be fine," and I think probably that might be even annoying to some people.
Yeah.
So another podcast might be, "What's it like to live with somebody who's so positive?" Because that can be a challenge for them, I think, sometimes.
For sure.
Not that they're not positive as well. Like, that's not what I'm saying, but yeah, I think I've always been that way. I think to be honest, God made me this way, and
sure.
like everything, there's strengths to that. There's also weaknesses to that, but I definitely am grateful for that. I think people like being around positive people. Doesn't mean I don't have the odd bad day or have frustrations or struggles. I can get into a black hole just like anybody else. But positivity, and in my case, there's a faithfulness as far as God can move in and shift me sometimes in my own spirit, my own heart, my own mind, and help me think differently. And that's an important part of my my daily routine, where I start the day in prayer. And I just do find that kind of shifts me sometimes. Even if I start a new day feeling woe is me or life's too hard, and because it is hard, there's a shift that happens. And so I'm grateful for that. Both I've been wired that way. This prayer time in the morning that really helps me experience that as I move into a day. And then I would say, as a leader, like my role really is around leadership. And so I think that's really helpful to be positive as a leader and try to help others see the bigger picture, see what's possible as opposed to just what's not possible. So it's kind of a bit where that comes from, part of who I am, and I think partly who I need to be to do my role really well, or as well as I possibly can. Yeah.
And you already kind of touched on it, but I was wanting to kind of ask you, like I said, everybody has bad days. Everybody gets down. And I know you've been there. I'm sure you get there. But what do you, obviously you've mentioned prayer, but this is a podcast for everybody. So there's some people I'm sure out there that don't, that's maybe not their thing. Sure. What kind of techniques, other than that, do you use to kind of stay on track, and when you get off, and obviously it's okay to get off, but to get back on track and to try to stay positive for the people around you and yourself?
Yeah. Great question. I mean, gratitude for sure is one of them, and try to think about what is good and what I'm grateful for, not just what isn't. So even entering into a Monday, a new week, I find part of the ritual or process for me is I really do take some time to think about the previous week and where were the wins,
Mm,
where were the blessings, if you will, where again, what am I grateful for? And then that's very powerful, because if I don't do that, even a positive guy like me can just sink into what isn't right, what's not done, what is still overwhelming for me. So
right.
I think gratitude, like gratitude,
100%.
all the way. And I think wherever someone is around, like say faith or those kind of, like anybody can practice gratitude.
For
Like, and
sure.
that's, and as a parent, as a leader, hey, okay, you're having a bad day, Harrison. So, what's going good? What are you grateful
Right.
for? And all of a sudden, it takes you down a very different track.
100%.
And those problems that seem so big all of a sudden become smaller, because they're in the context of okay, maybe life doesn't suck as bad as I thought it did. You know what I'm
For
saying? Like,
sure.
that's how you can get in that deep dark hole, whether it be a daily experience or something even deeper. So that would be part of it. There's a book. There's a book by Norman Vincent Peale called The Power of Positive Thinking. And anyway, I just reread it like when COVID started. And I'm telling you, man, it was such a good time to read this book and look at everything that was happening
For sure.
completely different. The power of positive thinking. So that would be part of it.
You see,
I think,
you're talking about gratitude,
yeah.
and like when you start a new week, you're talking about kind of thinking about the next week. Do you do things on a daily basis or regularly? Like me personally, I haven't done it, uh, recently, but like keeping a gratitude journal is something I've found. Are there things that you do, like I said, on a daily, regularly, like that help you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the prayer process that I was talking about, but say my morning ritual,
Hmm.
that would definitely include journaling, and I just use three simple words: thank you, sorry, please. And so
Oh,
right off the gates, I'm saying, hey, thank you, God, for like just even reviewing what happened yesterday. And it can be the simplest of things, but it just kind of
for
makes
sure.
you more aware of those good things in your life. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Would you mind, if you're interested, sharing a little bit about your morning routine? And because it sounds
Yeah.
like that's a big, has a big impact on how you are and how you feel. If you'd like to maybe just dive a little bit into that, that'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. Yeah, no, and so, and what I like about having a morning routine or ritual is that I don't wake up every day and think, oh, what am I going to do today?
Mhm.
It's like, okay, I don't need to rethink that. I got a routine that I do pretty much every single morning. Saturdays are a little bit different, but every other morning, this is pretty much what I do. So I'll get up, I'll put the coffee on, I'll
Yeah,
have a glass of water. While the coffee's brewing, I'll do some stretching in the kitchen just to kind of limber up a little bit, and
for sure.
these old muscles get a little stiff, so that helps. It's
Yeah.
really healthy thing to do. Yeah, and then I'll grab my coffee and I'll go have a spot where I kind of go to the same spot every morning. When the weather's nice, I'll sit outside, and
Hmm.
the spot I have outside, the sun as it comes up, it hits me like right where I'm on our back deck. It's
Yeah,
beautiful. Like again, like how can you not start the day good when that's where you're, just the
for
sun's coming
sure.
up. I feel that
Yeah.
warmth and heat. So then I'll do a few things. I'll do a bit of meditation, or what I call centering prayer, to start for about 10 minutes. Then I usually do some kind of reading. That's when I find I can fit in reading the best as a leader. Especially, I like to keep reading, so I read about a book or two a month, depending on the length of the book. But I'll read
Yeah.
for 10 or 15 minutes. Then I've got a Bible app called
Hmm.
Bible in 1 year that I'll read through. That's about 10 minutes. And I'll do that journaling. So again, that journaling, it's pretty much the same thing every day. I'll journal through those three very simple words: thank you, sorry, please, thank you. What am I grateful for? What happened yesterday? Who are some of the people that I got to see? Sometimes there's just things that surprise you in the course of a given day. It's great to reflect on that and be
Yeah, for
aware of
sure.
that. Yeah. The sorry part is really simply, hey, maybe I can have a tendency to speak before I think. And so maybe I said something that I wish I hadn't have, or I might have said it with the wrong tone, or maybe I didn't step into something that I wish I had of looking back. So the sorry can have that kind of element to it. Not,
For sure.
not so much like guilt. That's not where that would take me. It's more empowerment to do differently next time, or even maybe to follow up with somebody to say, hey, I just want to talk to you about what happened there yesterday. My apologies. So that would be the sorry part.
Right.
And then please would kind of help me move into the day, and hey, what's happening today? What are some of my meetings? Who are the people I'm going to be with? And just sort of pray or say that idea of please around this, my hopes for that. So,
Yeah.
and then yeah, that would be pretty much it. It takes about an hour. So that's the way I start, like pretty much every day. And definitely, yeah, like I found that people who, especially leaders, they often do have a morning ritual, something like that. Everyone's a little bit different, but it really does, back to the kind of, where does that positivity come from? It gets you started on the right foot, if you
Right.
will, like every day, and never perfectly, but I tell you, man, like that changes how I enter into the day, like 100%
Do you ever
without
find
question.
do you ever find that you wake up and you're not feeling great maybe, and then you go through your routine and it changes your outlook on that day and how you feel?
Absolutely, like without question. Because I think that's, I mean, I don't know. I'd love to know what other. Well, I guess I do know. I think when someone looks at me, who I think I am fairly positive, and so
For
I
sure.
hear that. I hear that, right? So I'm not surprised to hear that. But I think sometimes people wonder, oh, do I ever have a bad day, or
Yep.
do I,
Yep.
he's so, and I would just want to be really honest about that. Like, absolutely. In fact, to be honest, oh, I don't keep track of this, but I probably a lot of mornings, maybe even most mornings, let's say at least half, I do wake up thinking, "Oh man, like
Yeah.
how is this one going to play out? This is going to be a tough conversation, or I don't know, like I don't know if I got the in me for this project. Like I'm feeling overwhelmed, or maybe because I've got too many projects on the go,
Mhm.
because that can happen to positive people too, because
For sure.
we yes, bring it on. We always so anyway, so absolutely, Harrison, like for sure I can definitely wake up very, very regularly feeling overwhelmed, feeling burdened even before I enter, which what a tough way to enter the day. But
Yeah.
that process, that ritual, get prayer, all those pieces that are part of my morning ritual, um, definitely. I call it my lifeline. I call it a
Wow.
lifeline. Seriously, like in
Yeah.
that, without that, I just don't think I'd be who I am, or enter into each day the way that I do. Yeah.
Wow.
So what you just described very consistently happens at some level every day. To be honest,
Yeah.
if I didn't wake up overwhelmed and feeling maybe burdened or negative or whatever it is, maybe I was feeling pretty good when I woke up and feeling good about that day. It definitely is even better after this.
Yeah.
More ready, more empowered. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Let's go. Like that's
Yeah. For
like it's
sure.
almost like, again, this lifeline would be coming out of a negative space. But even if you're not entering a negative space, you just come out even better, like almost like a caged animal in a hopefully healthy way, just ready to tackle whatever's coming that day.
Yeah.
you know
Wow.
and, and let's face it, we live in a world where there's so much negativity and there's so much pain, that
Mhm.
I just really think the world needs more people who are entering into the day like that. You want to be with people who walk into the room, and the energy raises because that person walked into the room,
Yeah.
right? and
Oh,
and
for
they you
sure.
you can't bring that if you don't have that within you.
Mhm. And what it sounds like to me is maybe some, I mean, I think everybody has it within them, but sometimes that you don't feel like you do, but it's a choice. To some extent, obviously, it's harder in certain situations and with people. People have different things going on, but um, it's an active choice to, maybe it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to put the effort in to try to change my morning routine or whatever it is, or
Yeah,
working on those things, focusing on them. It might not be instantaneous, right? But putting effort in, I mean, it'll change your life, as you're saying. Like, it
yeah,
keeps you, it's your
yeah,
lifeline. That's
yeah.
that's incredible. And you kind of already touched on this, but we've talked about before. You said difficult conversations,
Mhm.
and we've talked about this before. But I actually wanted to talk about that because I know in your position and being a leader, and I mean, honestly, I guess everybody in everyday life, we have difficult
Yeah.
conversations and difficult situations that happen. How do you stay positive with dealing with those things and see it, I guess, as a good thing? And also, um, that's like, preparing for something if you're going to have that conversation. But what if, you're kind of bombarded by something, you aren't, you're taken aback, you aren't ready for it? How do you approach that in a great way and not, just feel down and out about it, because it's easy to feel like that?
So one of the things for me would be, one, take a deep breath, just relax, go back to that gratitude, even in that moment. Like, there's rarely a situation where, doesn't mean that the rest of your life's falling apart. Like that was in this book of positive power, of positive thinking. Norman Vincent Peale was dealing with someone who felt like they were on the end of the rope, and
Hmm.
and said, well, what about your family, and what about your home, and what about your health? And before you knew it, this person had. So I guess I would just say, don't forget that life, though this situation might be a challenge, life is filled with challenging situations and conversations. It's not the only thing going on in your life. So don't
Right.
forget it, to put it in the context of everything
Right.
of everything else. The other piece for me would be that most situations we've probably been in something like that before, and
Mm-hmm.
you're still standing. So obviously you survived it before. You're going to survive it again.
That's it
And
for
and
sure.
if not, then it's a learning opportunity, and it's going to help you out for next time. But just again, just to try to, and then I think even in those conversations, you may need to bring positivity for both people,
Oh wow. Yeah.
um, and don't be afraid to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, Harrison, can I just share with you how I think this might be a good thing for you too? You know what I mean? And just
Right.
you might have to bring that for both people. And I've had to do that before, and that's part of our role as I think positive people as leaders, like those kinds of things. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Um, Something I wanted to ask you about, because I could guess, but I'd like to hear it from you. How has this way of, like I said, it's I actually read this book last year, and there's something called the cortisol lottery. They like to call it, which is basically like some people are, let's say, I don't know how it works, but like out of 100, some people are born like a 90 out of 100 on happiness.
Mm,
And some people just on average are like 20. Like it's just, it's a biological thing. So some people, sometimes you can't on a natural level control how you automatically, think and that kind of thing, right? So you're obviously lucky that you got the higher end of that spectrum, but also it's a choice. So
mm,
what I'm wondering is that, you've made this choice. How has it affected your life? Which we've kind of talked about, but most importantly, how does it affect, or how do you see it impact others around you? Because
mm.
you're communicating with a lot of people. I mean, hundreds of people on a weekly
Yeah,
basis at your
yeah.
church. How do you find that that impacts others, and does that kind of help you, encourage you to continue to work on it for yourself, for the benefit of others as well?
Great question. Great question. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for me, for sure, like I said earlier, it's part of my role. So I want to try to bring that positive outlook, and that faithful outlook if I can. And so um one of the things for me is who I surround myself with, and I think
Wow.
I think
Yep.
I do have to guard and protect myself sometimes. And we all, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to name names, but I think we all know people. Even as we're talking right now, you have people in your mind who, oh man, they suck energy from me almost every time we talk.
Yeah.
That person. Every time I'm in the same room or in a conversation with them, I just come out flying. Like I just get energized. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's okay to be clear, especially as a leader, how those situations impact you, and at least make sure. I'm not saying don't love or have time for the people that are negative or bring you down, but make sure you guard and protect yourself enough that you spend enough time with the people that bring you up. I got a good friend. He's a leader as well, a business man, Jim Christian. You met
Yeah.
him, Harrison, through our Growing Together in Life and Leadership that you were a part of there in June. And so he and I, we call ourselves like accountability partners, and it's really a
Yeah.
lot of support and encouragement. So we text daily, like every morning, just to encourage each other. And so I would really I think that's important to help yourself stay positive. Who you surround yourself with, who you're connected to, and don't be afraid to have that kind of relationship, because some days you can't do it on your own. And
Mm-hmm.
so though it is a choice, as you say, you don't have to make that choice just on your own.
Right.
The prayer part, the ritual part, however that works out for you, friends that can really help build you up as well, and that you can build them up. All that is part of trying to make sure that you have that when you go to help lead others and encourage others as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Wow.
I guess the one piece I'd say too is like sometimes I think it can get to a point where, like, it's one thing to say I'm going to make a choice, and I think we want to try to keep working at that.
Mm-hmm.
But there are situations in life that get beyond the norm, if you will. And I
Yep,
think
for sure.
when you get into things like depression, mental illness, I just want to be really careful, because I don't think what we're saying here is like sometimes you just can't push through those things on your
For
own. It's
sure.
not,
Yeah,
it's
100%.
not just like you're not able to make that mental shift.
Yeah.
That's not something you can do. So in those cases, I had a period in my life where I did experience some depression, and I had to go for counseling, and it really, I needed to take a break from some things, to get healthy again,
Mm-hmm.
and that really helped me. But I wasn't able to just make that choice, if you will, just on my own.
For sure.
Yeah. Having said that, there's been lots of instances in my lifetime, both personally and as a leader, where it was a very intentional decision. Just not to go too deep into it, but we lost our first child, Lucas. He was 2 years old in July 2000, and I mean that was people go through these experiences in life. Maybe it's different for others. It could be a marital breakup. It could be a relationship that can't get reconciled between a parent and a child. It could be all kinds of financial ruin. Like all these things are real for people. That was one that we had to face, and I have to say there were definitely moments along the way where I felt like I had to choose life. I had to choose to live. Like even an example. Like I remember we were. My goodness, it was like within the first couple months after this had happened. So we just lost our 2-year-old son, and our daughter Leah, who was only 5 weeks old at the time. She's a couple months old, and I remember I'm sitting on the couch, just not having a good day, not having a good night, kind of just overwhelmed, paralyzed, if you will, sitting there on the couch.
Yeah.
And I remember she's sitting on the ground in front of me, and as I'm sitting on the couch, like not able to, feeling like I'm able to do anything, like even go down and play with her, all of a sudden it hits me that, man, like you need to choose life. You need to choose to get down on that floor and play with your daughter.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a slap in the face, but one that I really needed in that moment.
Yeah.
And there was a choice that I made. And it was a good choice to get down and play with her. And to be honest, I started feeling better in that moment after I did that, rather than just sitting on the couch kind of feeling my pain. And so I think sometimes they call it the theory of praxis. And what that means is sometimes our feelings catch up to our practice. So if we can choose to do something, sometimes we may not feel like it when we start into it, but after we do it, the feelings will catch up to that practice.
Yeah.
You don't feel like working out. Well, a lot of people don't, you know what I mean? But then once you do the workout, wow, like did that ever feel good?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Jamie.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and I'm glad we touched on a little bit of that, because I know, mental illness and things like that it's a big thing, and like I said, like sometimes it's not, it's like chemical imbalance, like that's not anything you can control. So sometimes it's not just about that choice, and it's important, like you said, to have that support of others, right?
Yeah, and it might be the choice of getting help.
Yeah.
I'm going to
For sure.
I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to go for counseling. I'm going to take the right medication, and I'm going to choose to live healthier as best I can, to go for a walk or not drink or whatever it might be that is part of that particular managing of that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I recently, this is actually touching on something that I've been feeling, not in the sense of like the depression and anxiety and things like that, but feeling like you said, like it's a choice. You have to support yourself to work on these things, right? And especially with anything personal growth, which is what all this stuff is about, that I'm trying to get across to people. But sometimes it's like you can't only push yourself so far, and you need somebody else to fall back on. And that's a big thing to realize, because especially when you're somebody like that, like a leader, like, everybody's turning to you. And I'm sure you get this, like everybody's turning to you, they want support and you want to help them. I'm sure of it. But there's days, you can't do it, but you got to have those other people. And that's, it's really important.
Yeah. And there's something called grace that I think is really important too, and especially for driven people who are trying to make this choice and encourage others to as well. Sometimes, we need to give ourselves a break as well, and know that that's part of staying healthy and living life, and that's okay too. To give ourselves and others some grace as well. My wife and I, like, she's positive as well for sure, but we're quite different. And so I remember one night, I was just all on, like, oh, I want to be more intentional, and I want us to be more intentional with our life, and we'd had a couple glasses of wine, and it was all good. And she says, I wish you were less intentional. but it was actually a really, like, I've never forgotten that. It was like, sometimes I need to be less intentional, just go with the flow a little more, just a little more, again, grace, and just kind of easier on myself and easier on everybody else, and just kind of balance those a little bit.
That's the thing. It's all about balance. Which is something I want to talk about sometime. I want to do a conversation about that, but that's something I started to realize in my life, like balance, because me personally, I'm like that, just like go all the time. And I love it. But then, when you do that, you can only reach high for so long, and then you have that drop off, and the goal is, reach that equilibrium where you don't have to do that. And that requires, like you said, that balance. So I guess that's a big thing, here, being positive is awesome. And if you're going to do that and you want to do that, it's amazing. But it's okay to not be positive all the time, or to
Yes.
be that, right? That's a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I would say that every strength has a dark side, has a weakness.
Right.
And I think one of the things I've learned as someone who's, as you say, generally very positive, is I don't always see. I can have a blind eye sometimes to reality,
Right.
and I would want to be very careful, because I think still it's important to work through that reality, not to let it necessarily stop you, but you want to be realistic and understand and be aware of what that is. And I think sometimes I've missed things,
Yeah.
because I've just been so positive and so quick to, hey, let's go, everything's fine.
Yeah.
So that would just be a warning to myself.
For sure. How do
Yeah,
you find you keep like kind of grounded in that sense instead of, just soaring over things and having that
yeah.
mindset? Is it the people around you? Is that the is
100%. Yeah, and listening, like yeah, I'm really working these days on doing a better job of listening to people,
mm,
and I find if I do listen, I'll hear more of that, and then can decide, okay, what really needs to be. No, no, let's that. Don't worry about that one, or what really needs to be worked on. But just that
okay.
listening to people, and particularly people. That's where if people maybe are more less positive or more aware of the negative. There are people like that for sure. Like, sometimes you're sitting around a meeting and they're the ones that always see the problem. However, you can use that to your advantage, if you will, and say, let's
Right.
let's hear that, let's understand that,
Right.
and then you can bring your positivity to that and work through that together.
Right. Well, it's like we said, it's the balance, right? You need
Yeah,
both sides
yeah.
for
But I
sure.
think for me, the listening and slowing down enough to at least be aware of what those issues are,
Mhm.
what those roadblocks might be, what those speed bumps might be,
Right.
as opposed to just, hey,
Mm,
everything's fine, and
yeah.
because I can do that too. I love it. I saw a quote recently from John Maxwell. He's a leadership guru, and he said some people, what was it? It was about the sale. Let's see if I can remember this. Um, Basically was saying something like, uh, negative people only see that it's windy. Positive people say the wind's going to change, and then leaders adjust the sails. I don't
Wow.
have it
Yeah.
quite right, but that idea of, it's not, it's, yeah, a leader's going to know what needs to happen, be aware of that, and then
Based it
adjust
on
the
the
sails.
situation
Yeah,
for
not just
sure.
say it's gonna be fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't
We've
quite
done
get that one right, but you get the idea. Yeah,
No, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah.
We've done a lot of discussion kind of about leadership stuff because I know it's a role, that you have in your life and your job. But what's some advice you give to somebody that maybe isn't in that position? Maybe they're not in a leadership position, or they don't see themselves as being less of a leader and more of a, sometimes there are people that's not their role in life. That's what they don't want to do, right? We need everybody. Um, and for these kind of things, what's, I guess, something you'd share with people that aren't in that position, just anything honestly, that you think would be beneficial for them to hear.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, like, do not underestimate the value that you bring. Yeah, do not
Oh yeah.
underestimate the value that you bring. As you said, everybody's role is important on a team, and so what you bring will be very important. Even supporting the leader and bringing encouragement to that person, because everybody needs encouragement. So we've talked
Right.
about leaders often as people who are bringing that encouragement to others. Well, someone needs to bring that to the leader,
Yeah.
and so that might be your role if you're
Yeah.
not the leader on a team. Yeah, so just really that every role matters, and just to see how you could still bring value to that and know
Hmm.
that you do. Yeah, those little things that you do, the details, the support of the leader, the encouragement. Yeah, that's who leaders are going to listen to. You don't have to be the upfront person or the person at the front of the line, if you will, to have great value. Mhm.
Yeah, that's funny. It lines with recently we had one of the Monday, Motivation Monday videos, and it was that know your worth, because no matter what you're doing, right? Everybody's got value to their life and what they bring. And that's a big thing.
Absolutely.
I like that you said that because, like I said, there are people, and I know people that they don't want to be the leader type, and that's just not what they are, and that's completely fine. But we need those people too, uh,
Absolutely.
right?
and
And I
and then
mean,
as a leader to be aware of how much value those people do bring to your team, to what you're doing, and really, 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 really do your best to appreciate them regularly.
yeah, I mean, like, and the leader role wouldn't exist without those people.
Yeah.
So you gotta, acknowledge that for both sides. Again, we seem to be coming back to that balance. Like
Yeah.
it's so important.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
what's one of the biggest realizations or things that have come up in your life throughout what you've gone through and in your job um, that is really just almost change your perspective on life? I'm sure there's some, might not be a dramatic, but just like what's something that sticks out that was like, wow, just because I've got you on here and I'd like to share that. I think if there's something specifically that comes to mind.
Yeah, yeah. I think the life change that I get to see. I mean, and I think that would be part of the why of what I do. What I do. When you see a life get changed, whether someone who's in despair find hope, or someone who's depressed, almost like come back to life and
Hmm.
find healing. Yeah, that would be. I got that just doesn't get old for me. And like I said earlier, don't get me wrong. Like I've got challenges in my life, in my leadership. I have days that can be a struggle,
Yeah.
but that reminds me why I do what I do. That reminds us why we do what we do.
Hmm.
And again, that's that gratitude thing that kind of keeps you going through some of the tough stuff. Just that bring it, seeing lives get changed and impacted on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And I think whatever our role is, we can do that. It may not be a leader of a big organization. It may be simply just showing love to somebody who you have an interaction with in a
Yeah,
day. And as we know, on the receiving side of that, that can make a big difference. When you
for sure.
smile at somebody, if you notice what happens, they almost always smile back. I guess it can be almost as simple as that. And
Yeah.
so I just think seeing life change for people is definitely part of what makes me tick, and why I do what I do, and why I give everything I have to it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much. I'm glad we could have this conversation before we head out. Can You've got your live services right on for anybody in the world, I guess at this point.
Yeah, we
Do you
are.
wanna just share where people can find you in the church and what you're up to?
Sure, love to, love to. Yeah, I mean, with this online world, we were already online, but since COVID, we've really become an online church. And so, yeah, wherever people are, they can find us. So our website is nbuc.ca. That stands for North Bramley United Church. nbuc.ca. And yeah, our services are at 9 and 11, but they're on Facebook as well. Our NBUC Church Facebook page. You can stream off of our website, or you can come to the NBUC Church Facebook page and watch it there. And it's on the page like all day, all throughout the week. And so we got some great stuff going on these days. We're doing a series called Unsung Heroes. So tomorrow, or sorry, the series that we're in right now is honoring unsung heroes. And just again, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, people in Scripture, but also people in real life who we often don't realize the difference that they make in the way that God works through, and want to celebrate that. So
Yeah, for sure.
unsung heroes who serve, like first responders, and unsung heroes who use their hands, like under trades and arts and creativity. So it's really been a great series. And anyway, love to have you and check it out. We got some young guys doing some great music, and that's a part of our services these days as well. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, for sure. Like if you're listening to this, anybody, go check it out because it's awesome. Like the quality. I don't know if you'll get a better quality church service than that. It's good. It's well done. It's awesome, and you get to listen to Jamie talk. So
Hey, cool.
that's a win-win right there.
All right, thanks, buddy.
That's
Thanks so
awesome.
much.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jamie, and we'll chat soon. If you're interested in more content like this, go check out our website at don'tsettleofficial.ca. We're dedicated to providing resources, information, and content designed to assist you on your journey of personal growth, and most of all, to help you live life to the fullest. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll chat with you next time.